Welcome to Insight in Business Analysis with Banks. Today I'll be hosting Dean James, a professional business analyst and also the president of International Institute of Ireland Business Analysis Ireland chapter. Thank you for agreeing to be on my podcast today. I'm excited to dive into the conversation. Please welcome Dean James. Thank you for agreeing to be on my podcast today, James. James,
No problem.
how are you today?
I'm not too bad, thanks. How are you?
Oh, not too bad, not too bad. How are you enjoying the weekend?
Yeah, it's good. The weather has kind of picked up here in Ireland. It was raining, well, it's been raining kind of the last few days, like really heavily. But it's like the sun is trying to come out, we'll say.
That's grand. As we dive into the conversation, can you tell me about yourself, please, if you don't mind?
Yeah, sure, no problem. First of all, thanks so much for the opportunity to be on your podcast. It's an honor. And I appreciate the reach out as well. So thanks so much for that. So my name is James Dean. I'm based in Dublin in Ireland. And like Bank said, that I'm the president of the IIBA Ireland chapter. So I've been the president for about 2 years now. I run the chapter, or kind of lead the chapter with, I would say, an exceptional group of people. It's not just me, because I couldn't do it all by myself. So we have people like that run the events parts, professional development, corporate membership and sponsorship, and then a treasurer. And so our collective kind of efforts within the chapter allow us to do different kind of initiatives. And basically our main goal within the IIBA Ireland chapter is to like support or enhance support for aspiring junior experienced business analysts, increase the awareness of business analysis in Ireland, but also kind of in general. And also just to help really anyone kind of with any problems that they might have within their journey of a business analysis professional, not necessarily a business analyst, but it could be a data analyst, it could be someone who is wanting to transition like from project manager into business analysis, or just by teaching the kind of the BA or the global kind of community what business analysis is, how we can help, what it's all about, and then kind of training people for different situations. Like, because when you're kind of learning how to be let's say a business analysis professional, you have all this terminology of all these kind of key concepts, all these different areas, techniques, and it can be quite overwhelming for an aspiring business analyst. So we try to break it down within the chapter to different kind of scenarios that a business analysis professional might be able to work in or might kind of encounter throughout their career, depending on kind of what industry or domain that they might go in. So it's all about support and kind of helping there. Separate to that, my kind of journey, I suppose, as a business analyst, I kind of fell into the role, like a lot of people that you might kind
I think you were told me a lot about your role as the president of IIBA Ireland chapter.
of.
My next question, which I wanted to ask you, which you're about diving into, is actually like if you can tell us your journey into business analysis, and
Yeah.
how's that been? How's that been, over the years, like you've been practicing it?
Yeah, absolutely. So I've been a business analyst for 7 years now. So I didn't really know about the role or even about IIBA or business
Yeah.
analysis in general. I started off with graduating from college with a Bachelor of Science honors degree in
Can you tell
IT.
us like, how many years of experience do you have now?
7.
Oh, that's good. That's a good experience. Okay, how's that
Yeah.
been like for you? How's it going to be like?
Yeah. It's been I would say a journey. It's been challenging, but it's also been exciting. And I think that's what I love about the role, that it's just there's always something new to learn. There's always a new challenge. There's always like another opportunity. There's always a new technique that you could try to learn to use within a particular situation. And I think it's just the fact that you have that kind of ability or flexibility to kind of work within different domains, different industries, and it's not necessarily based on your role. It's more like a mindset, as certain people would say within the BA world. It's the mindset of how we apply our knowledge, our skills, our techniques to different industries, and that's kind of what makes us successful. So yeah, that's what I would say.
What kept you going? What kept you going? Like over the 7 years now.
I think for me, I always try to give myself high expectations and try to give myself goals each year. So by setting for example, I have like a long-term goal of becoming certified as a business analyst professional. Now that's like the highest certificate within the IIBA. But I feel that that would open up more kind of senior business analyst responsibilities or opportunities or growth for working more with strategic leaders to then get into like that leadership kind of role or to do more of a leadership. And because when I started, I was kind of just doing more, say, documentation, and I might do some sort of like elicitation sessions where you're meeting with the different kind of stakeholders and you're kind of drawing out the requirements, but I wasn't really applying, I was supposed as a, let's say a mid-level junior or a mid-level business analyst where they will be kind of using different techniques and using different approaches. It was more kind of, I suppose it depends on the company and the organization that you're working with, but they use like a lot of templates and then there was a lot of like sign off. But then when I got into another organization, it was more like an agile approach. So I had to change my kind of strategy or my approach to learn how does that work. And so then it kind of enabled me to push to get an agile certification. So I got my AAC through IIBA. And then I was also looking at like the product owner kind of aspect because that has come up a few times. So it's more for me, like I'm constantly looking at kind of what is changing within the BA world or the industry. What are the kind of upcoming technologies, industries? How do we plan for the future? Like I'm sure you've heard of, we have like AI, machine learning,
Yeah.
all of these different things that are going to happen in the future. So how do I upskill myself to be able to basically showcase these skills or be able to work and adapt my strategy as I work?
Exactly. Yeah, that's good. I'm going to ask you a question about the certification, but at the moment right now, I probably want to like ask you more questions on business analysis and like, can you tell us like a memorable project you worked on, as a BA, over the past 7 years now?
Okay. I've had a few.
Like a memorable one, like, some the one that like was very taxable, that involved a lot of like, difficult stakeholders, like before you even get to development stage, what do you encounter? How memorable can you share with people that, are outside there that you can actually learn from you?
Yeah, I think there's always on every project I try to deliver some sort of value because I know your role or your responsibilities or the scope of your role can change based on the context of the project and the context of what you're doing. So like when let's say last year, I had a project where we were working on, so I work currently in the energy industry. Prior to that, I had worked in the corporate business registry domain, and then I worked in life sciences, and now I'm working in energy. So completely different across the boards, constantly learning. But what I've done is like just use my kind of key skills, like different techniques and kind of just collaboration, communication, facilitation, making sure the right people are in the right meeting at the right time so you can ask the right questions, that kind of thing. And when I was working on a particular project, I can't give specifics, but it was to basically, there's these different energy schemes within the UK. And so when you have a customer signed up to a scheme, they would have like some sort of asset that we would control. So like an asset could be like a battery or it could be like a chiller or like a refrigerator, something that basically generates energy that we can use to make some sort of profit at a high level. That was the kind of needs. Now there was a problem that arose where there was certain assets that were in certain energy schemes that weren't really performing well, which meant that the customer was losing revenue, my company was losing revenue, and just it was a whole kind of a mess of kind of different problems. So we needed a way for a solution to basically be able to switch an asset from one energy scheme to another, to basically go back and forth or to go to multiple different kind of schemes so that we could monitor them to see, okay, is it actually performing better now? And is it making more revenue? So that was one kind of project that I was on where I was kind of leading I would say I was the only business analyst in my company, but I was leading the BA efforts and I was guiding different stakeholders within my company in terms of like, how do we do our work? So not just jumping straight to solution mode, but starting from the start, like, okay, what is the problem that we're trying to solve? Because when the problem came to me, it was really technical. It was in a technical perspective. And I think as a business analyst, it's really important that we don't just kind of take something and just go with it. We need to challenge different stakeholders. We need to challenge even the problem sometimes to make sure that we're understanding, okay, is this actually the right problem? So there was a lot of kind of like five whys as a technique, for example, to get to the root cause of the problem, to make sure that we were actually understanding, okay, this is the problem before we go ahead and even look at even some sort of requirements. Like we need to understand, okay, do our analysis of the initial problem, then identify who is impacted by that problem, because there could be multiple different stakeholder groups, or there could be multiple, even outside of the company, like stakeholders that we need to kind of engage with. Or if we say we want to put this asset from this energy scheme A into energy scheme B, we might need to check the regulations for energy scheme B, because there might be certain rules there, like minimum requirements that that asset has to fulfill. And because it's not in that energy scheme at the moment, there might be a kind of a gap there that we need to fill. So all of those kind of things we need to look into before we can say, hey, this is now how we go about solving the problem. So when you have your identification of stakeholders and you've done your analysis of, okay, who has influence, who can make decisions, and how are we going to handle change, all of these kind of key strategic BA 101, I would call them, once they're kind of in place, then we start working on. You've just been given a solution and that's it, you have to roll with it. But months down the line, you might find that that's the wrong one, or it's not actually correct, or it doesn't actually solve the problem. So I was kind of pushing, or I would say challenging diplomatically, the stakeholders to make sure that, okay, this solution option is actually going to be, it is going to solve the problem. Or if it's not, how are we like managing that as a risk? So we had like, say, 3 different solution options at the time. We were evaluating and assessing each one to make sure that it was actually going to be a benefit. And we were doing a cost benefit analysis as well, just to make sure that it was going to deliver value at the end of the day, but it was also going to be a cost effective solution. Because if it's not going to be cost effective, it's not really going to, I suppose the senior leaders are not really going to accept that as a solution. Like they want something kind of quick and cheap, but they also want something, sorry, that's going to actually bring value to the stakeholders. So once we had all that kind of, let's say, analysis done, now we could look at, okay, what do we actually need to solve this problem? Not what do we want.
What we need, exactly.
What do we need? Because it's really important that we separate needs from wants. Because a lot of people will say, oh, I want this, I want this, I want this. And if it doesn't align back to what the business objectives and the goals are of that project to solve the problem, it's like, it's not going to, it's basically wasted effort, I feel. They're like nice to haves. And I think if we're trying to define, let's say in an agile world, like an MVP, so a minimal viable product, what's the minimal functionality that we need as a solution to solve this problem? That's the goal. That's what I was trying to push for. So all these like different kind of ideas were coming out of like discovery sessions, and it was my job to make sure that basically we were getting the high level features or high level needs of different stakeholders to make sure that that actually was going to solve the problem. Then anything else was to be discussed or negotiated, whether it was going to be like a phase 2, whether it was going to be kind of parked for later or like logged on our backlog to be discussed at a later time. But we kind of had to do that facilitation, or I had to do that facilitation of the different kind of stakeholders, make sure that everyone was on the same page of the problem we're trying to solve, and then everyone was on the same page when we were defining the scope. So to make sure that and that will then lead to the next part where we're doing the delivery. So we're working with the development team to basically break down each of the features or each of the needs or the user goals, and we're doing that incrementally. So I worked a lot with the development team, even come up with like wireframes and putting them into the user stories, doing refinement sessions, not just writing the user stories and hand them over, because that's
does that mean like you work mostly on the agile projects?
Yeah. So we had an agile approach there for development. Previously, before I came into the company, it was very much someone would write the user story and hand it over to the development team. But when I came in, I was like, that's not best practice, and it doesn't really encourage or empower that collaborative environment or engaging environments. Because if you're having a refinement with someone and they've wrote all of this detail within the user story, it's very hard to kind of understand what it is, and there's too much detail there. So a lot of people might feel that, oh, I can't ask questions because I feel silly, or because this person has gone through all of this different effort, and now if I ask a question, it's like, oh, I feel like I should know that. But it should be more like we should have, like, I mean, user stories are just a point where we're saying we need to have a conversation at some point in time. So it's like the cards, the conversation, and the confirmation. Like there are 3 C's. So for me, when I was coming into that project or even to my company, because they never had this kind of structure or approach before, it was I had to lead the team in terms of, okay, we're now going to be doing refinements, but we're not going to be doing it like a handover. We're going to be doing it where we actually discuss the different user scenarios. We discuss the acceptance criteria. We define how the process is going to work. We define the exceptions criteria, the exception flows. How does the system handle this particular scenario when the user does this? What are the different kind of business rules that we need to think of? And I mean, that's not just a one session, like a one and done. It's a constant, it's a elicitation, it's an ongoing process.
Ongoing process, exactly.
And that's what I did with the development team. So I worked with them, refining as we went, and it enabled the development team to understand who the user was, what we were trying to achieve, and what the benefit was of each kind of user goal or user story. And that was able to then go back to the end user, and we were able to like demo to them. So we had like, say, a prototype. I was saying, right, let's get the developer to basically demo on their local host to the end user so we can get feedback before we get to the end of a sprint. Because if we get to the end of a sprint, it was becoming like we had plans, like let's say the next set of user stories, and there wasn't enough time to take in that feedback. But I said, okay, let's do incremental feedback. So let's do it before the end of a sprint. So when you have, let's do something like the minimum, like let's say minimum working solution, so we can demo something to an end user. They can give us feedback. We can take that feedback in, and then we can quickly kind of implement the feedback before the end of a sprint.
I think that's like a lot of job for BAs, like whereby a lot of people doesn't know that the BA, you have a lot of job responsibility to do, because there are phases of each phases you must make sure that you deliver, right?
Yeah.
But and again, like from your experience, like you over the years, you work within energy, you work within corporate, for myself, like, I work within financial company, I work in, consulting, which is data engineering, field. And I'm currently right now working within like, a financial insurance company. I work within the data, the business where, I work as a business analyst and work in lots of, some of, reporting data, data migration, UI and UX development, things that has to do with data, that you work with different like-minded people globally, what important things can you say over the years that you've worked within different companies, like like was a difficult part of the job, being a PA, from you working in energy company, to corporate companies, like what can you really say that you find so difficult? Because a lot of people think that BA is like so easy to do. Yeah, it's easy to do, right? But what are the things that you encounter apart from, where we encounter, where we have difficult stakeholders apart from that?
I think it's quite difficult because it depends on the type of company and the structure and kind of the way that they work. But I would say for me, when I've been working as a BA, what's kind of made me successful has been that I've always tried to not become an expert an expert for a particular domain or industry, because I feel that when you become an expert, you're completely looked at a different way and you're expected to know the answers. But when you're working as a business analyst or a business analyst professional, you're not supposed to know all of the answers. I mean, you're never going to know all the answers.
Exactly, yeah.
And that's what makes us good as what we do, because we work with different people to collaborate.
And there's nothing wrong in asking, because you need to ask questions like,
Exactly.
even though no matter how foolish the question is, you must continue asking because your role is to find a solution.
100%.
And if you don't find a solution to the problem, then you're not delivering your job.
Yeah, 100%. And like that's what we do. We work with different people to ask questions to get the right information to then use our like analysis skills to figure out what are actually the requirements. And we don't do it like it's not a silo kind of work and job. We need to work with different people. You need to want to collaborate. You need to communicate. And it is like it's not just a fact of, oh, we meet with this person or this person and we write down what they say and then that's it, that those are our requirements. It's like if that was our job, it'd be so easy, right?
Yeah, yeah.
It kind of back to the
Yeah, you're right. Bringing me down to, or bringing me to the point that what skills, apart from communication, a BA, that is very important and vital. Because I have a number of people at the moment right now, I mentor, and I tell them, as a BA, there are tools that you need to know and learn, that you must actually know how to use. Apart from you engaging with stakeholders, apart from you meetings, apart from you, documenting requirements. What that skills are very, very important, over the years that you've been a BA, because at the moment right now, what I want to do first generally on Ireland, and to be able to encourage people that it's possible to actually be BA. What skills are actually very important and you think that people should you know?
So I would say like the two important skills that I always say is active communication and collaboration. They're so key. I feel anyone who uses them in any sort of role, it can be successful, because if you're actively communicating with the different people to understand what it is you're trying to solve or what the opportunity is based on the business needs or the business kind of opportunity, and you're collaborating then in different sessions to do different things, like define different types of requirements, like business requirements, your stakeholder requirements, your solution, which is made up of functional and non-functional, and then your transition requirements. It basically allows you to use that in any sort of project. So I've seen from my past experiences that I've been on projects before, and say you're late to the game, we'll say halfway through the project, and sometimes the scope is not even defined. Sometimes there's no engagement approach in place. Like, so they've defined a solution without engaging with the people who are going to be using it. And I find by having like a BA on a team, they can automatically say, okay, we know we need to collaborate in some shape or form with all of these different stakeholders. So we need to come up with some sort of engagement approach. And by having that as a key skill, it enables you to work successfully. And it also builds the good relationships with the people you work with, because they can see that you're reaching out to them to not only, oh, what do you want the system to do? You're rephrasing it in a different way. You're saying, okay, what do you need to do? Or based on the tasks that you do today while working, let's say within the HR department, what are those tasks? Now we have a new kind of requirement. How does that feed in to what you do today? What do we need to change? You're kind of asking these kind of questions in a different way, where I feel where technical people are more kind of, they're thinking about the solution and they're talking about the like databases and APIs and all these kind of technical terms, and they don't get that engagement. And that's where I think the gap is, where they would say approach, let's say, our end users, but they don't get much kind of buy-in because they're not really relating it to how they can contribute. But for a BA, where you're using your communication and your collaboration skills, even active listening, like that's a key skill in a workshop or a elicitation session, because if we're not actively listening to what the people are saying, then we might as well just have headphones on and just not be listening at all. So we need to be able to paraphrase what they're saying, or we need to be able to, if someone says, oh, a customer, we need to be like, okay, is there like different types of customers? Or when you say customer, what do you mean? So we can use then, like, say, a glossary of terms to define what actually a customer means. And a customer can mean different things in different contexts. So it's really key that we're like listening to terminology, definitions, and trying to understand different perspectives from different stakeholders, so that we can then say, okay, when we're talking about, say, there's this term in the energy world called a bid and an offer. Now, a bid and an offer can mean different things in different contexts. So if one person is saying, oh, a bid is like to buy energy, and then an offer is to sell energy, but then in a different context, someone else says something else, you have kind of conflicting definitions there of the term. And all of those definitions, it's really clear, or it's really key, I feel, to make sure that everyone's on the same page of the definition that we're working on for the context of the project, because that definition could determine a specific way that a requirement needs to be kind of elicited from different people. And I would say like those are the two kind of key main skills that I would say that have really been beneficial for me.
Oh, that's good. That's good. Bringing me to the certification, I know we have IIBA and also we have, BCF. from your own perspective, like, because IIBA, which is recognized worldwide, it's an international body, and BCS, I believe, that is recognized in the UK. From your own perspective, like for people that are looking to either transition and want to go into as a BA, what route and what pathway, of certification will you tell them to go through? Do you tell them to go through the IIBA or tell them to go through the BCS? Like,
I don't think it's a straight cut answer, like whether you should go IIBA or BCS. I think the both organizations are doing great things for the industry, and they're doing great things to help even aspiring or junior or experienced business analysts today. I think it depends on your own kind of preferences and kind of what goals you're looking to achieve and the objectives or kind of long-term initiatives you're looking to kind of venture into. I would say both organizations offer the key skills and techniques to be able to give you the confidence to start as a business analyst. Obviously, there's different kind of principles within each organization, but I think that's where I would see, like, it would probably depend on the person. I don't see one is better than the other. I think they're both doing amazing things.
amazing, yeah, that's true.
I think it's just they have different kind of ways of teaching. So, for example, the IIBA, they have their business analyst body of knowledge guide, which is a guide to doing business analysis. It's not, it doesn't tell you specifically how to do it. You need to take the knowledge that's within there, like the key knowledge areas, the techniques, the skills, the underlying competencies, the terminology, and you need to basically be able to apply that knowledge to different situations while working as a business analyst professional. I'm not too familiar with the kind of principles or the kind of the guidelines within the BCS, but I know they do have different kind of certifications for different areas, like they have a foundational.
Yeah, that's true. Because I myself, I started with BCS Foundation, like 6 years ago, and in BA, and I did a certification. And over time, I went straight to IBA. Then I did my CBAP, a few months ago, which was last year. And I've been able to understand that they're actually almost the same thing. Because BA role is actually universal. So it's not just like, one streamlined to one thing. So like everybody practices the same thing, but it's just different bodies, that is anchoring this, something, also like, what will you say? How are you able to manage in the president, of IIBA chapter in Ireland, and are you able to manage the work and the role of an IIBA chapter Ireland? How are you able to do that?
I think it's a great question. I think what keeps me going is I'm so passionate about business analysis, and I'm always looking to help and support in any way that I can. So within the IIBA Ireland chapter, because we have so many goals that we want to achieve and so many initiatives, and we get good feedback from our members or from our community when we're kind of planning to do this event or this kind of thing, it just kind of empowers me to keep going. It can be a struggle at times because it does take up a lot of my time, including doing some sort of mentoring sessions outside of the IIBA Ireland chapter, and then your normal kind of day-to-day job, which is like 9 to 5, and then you also have your own kind of personal life. But I think because I'm so passionate and because I want to achieve and I want to push the IIBA Ireland chapter to be as good as the UK chapter, or as good as like any other chapter around the world, like the Australian chapter or South African. I think like we have the right people in place, and I think it's more about, I feel there's like a gap in Ireland that we need to like fill, or we need to plan to fill. For example, the awareness of business analysis. A lot of people in Ireland aren't actually aware of the IIBA or the IIBA Ireland chapter, and that's something that we're working this year to kind of push initiatives to try that. So we're working with different kind of potential partners or different kind of companies. We're trying to get more into like academic institutions or colleges, universities, and just trying to get IIBA Ireland out there more. And I think by doing all of this, it will empower the business analyst community to give people more like, oh, hey, this is actually what we do, or this is what a business analysis professional is all about. These are kind of the key skills we use, and this is kind of the value that we can deliver back to the community. So it's because I have that, I suppose, willpower and constant push, it makes me, and as well, what I'm learning from different people within the IIBA Ireland chapter, it allows me to do my job better. So I'm learning different techniques constantly. I'm learning different perspectives. I'm constantly upskilling on training courses, and that all feeds into how I do my role on a daily basis and how I improve. So it's all kind of like connected, I feel, and it's one goal to basically provide more value for the business analyst community in any shape or form.
That's good. From what you said, like, you made mention like being IIBA president, like you're able to, do different applications. Like, do you think it's necessary as a business analyst, to keep to up certifications for those who are like, willing to start as a BA? Do you think it's important for them?
I don't think personally, I don't think someone needs to have a certification in order to perform in the role of a business analyst professional, whether it's business analyst, data analyst, or whatever kind of the role might be. I feel the certifications are really good because, especially the entry-level certificate, business analysis IIBA certification, and that gives you the kind of key knowledge or key kind of understanding of, okay, this is what business analysis is about. This is kind of the different tasks that I might do. These are the outputs, inputs, and stakeholders. What is the difference between them? So it gives them kind of key terminology to be able to then go into a company. And if you're working on a project, like, you're going to have the word stakeholder, you're going to have the word requirement, you're going to have design. So knowing the difference between a requirement and a design or a stakeholder, it's not just one person, it's actually groups of people. And all of those different groups of people do different things. How do I understand how do they do their different things? I can use different techniques. So that's where I think that the certifications can come into play, because if you're certified, then at least you have the knowledge of what it is to be able to work as a business analyst. And then you need to be able to apply that knowledge to different kind of work situations or different scenarios. And I don't think you're ever going to learn every scenario. Like, that's not what the Babok is going to do, or the version of the BCS guide is going to do. I think it's empowering to give business analysts the knowledge that they need in order to take that knowledge and adapt it to different situations, because adaptability is another kind of key skill that I see will be good for any business analyst, whether they're junior, senior, or experienced, or sorry, junior, aspiring, or experienced. Because we need to constantly adapt to different projects, different people, different environments, different domains, different terminology, processes, systems. We're constantly adapting, and that adaptability fulfills or kind of fuels the approach that we take on projects, because sometimes you're not always doing an agile project. You could be doing like a more predictive, like waterfall, which has a different process that you need to follow. And I think that's where the certifications come into play. They give you that knowledge of the different kind of aspects or methodologies or different kind of frameworks or things like that.
That's true. That's true. You're very right. Correct. Like, what do you see, or how do you see business analyst role evolving in next coming years?
So personally, I think that there's going to be like less templates that we're using. We've this less kind of concept of sign off. Now, I'm going to put a caveat and say that that's not for every industry, because I know for, like, say, the banking or finance industry, they have like auditing kind of principles or policies in place that they need to have specific documentation and that sign off process, and that's completely understandable. But I think the second thing I would say is more kind of collaboration. So we're going to be collaborating more to define the requirements with different people, rather than the misinterpretation or misunderstanding that a BA would have to just define the requirements and then just hand it over, or get sign off and then hand over. And so there's going to be there should be more of a collaboration, or more kind of working together rather than in silos, because in silos just doesn't really work. I mean, you could have gaps in requirements, you could have ambiguous requirements, you could have things that just don't make sense. Not everyone's on the same page. But by having all these people collaborating together, it should kind of make the process a bit more smoother, and it should get everyone on the same page quicker. So that's one thing, or two. The second thing I would say. The last thing I would say, and this came up on a different webinar before, is leadership. So the BA actually leading an initiative, that I think is so key, because a lot of the time it's led from, well, my experience is led from the technical team or by a project manager. And no offense to that person, but they don't have the key skills to even, like, they're thinking of a different kind of, I suppose, perspective. Like, as a project manager, they're thinking of budget, cost, resources, those kind of things, where a BA is not only thinking about, okay, what's the problem we're trying to solve, or what's the opportunity we're trying to address, but what's the bigger picture? You know, how does this project align back to the goals or the vision of the company? And it's important for us as BAs that we're not just, when we're in a project, or even working on a project or in an organization, that we actually learn the organization. We need to understand, how does the organization work? Like, what are the different kind of high level areas? What are the different departments? Who works in those departments? And what are the different processes or the systems? How do those people use those processes and those systems? How does that lead into, like, how do we manage our data? What are the different policies we have in place, structures, all that kind of stuff, because it's all the bigger picture view. And once we get that bigger picture view, it enables us to be able to do our job, or lead a project from a leadership kind of perspective. And we're not leading it to be like a dictator. We're leading it to be a part of a team. So we're kind of working with the team to see, how do we solve this problem, not by saying, okay, yeah, you're going to do this big design document, you're going to spend like 3 months on it, come back, and then we're going to look at what are the functional requirements, and then we're going to give it to the development team, and then it's going to go to testing, and then we're going to release it. And then when we release it, we find out, oh, this actually hasn't solved the problem. This solution that we've proposed or kind of delivered now needs to be reworked or needs to be enhanced. So it actually hasn't brought any value, it hasn't brought any benefit. But where BAs can lead that is from the start, when we're trying to, anyone in the company, if they have like a shiny idea, or they want to develop a new system, or they want to even use AI, we need to lead them to understand, what do they need to do, or is it even a good idea to do, and does it actually bring value? Does it align with what the overall arch and vision strategy of the company is? And if it doesn't, that's where we need to challenge them and say, hey, like, I don't know if this is a good idea. Like, does it make sense? Like, what objectives or expectations are you expecting from this initiative? Like, why do you want to use it? And if it's a case of, oh, everyone else is using it, so we have to, well, then there needs to be a discussion there of like, okay, but what value is that going to bring? Like, is it going to reduce costs? Is it going to increase revenue? And if there's none of those, then it's like, well, maybe that's not the right thing. So we can lead the decision makers, or the people who need to make the decisions, in the right direction, so that they're prioritizing the right kind of projects, initiatives, and solving the right problems that are actually going to align back to the overall business goals.
You've said it all, to be honest, like, BA leads, a BA makes sure that, a project is being brought to life, from initiation stage, to the completion. And also, it's not about controlling, but about, communicating, very well with stakeholders, all, team members, work on this project. Because of our time, advice we give those that is looking forward to either, join IIBA Ireland, and also the advice you give people that are just coming to transition BA, what advice will you give them? So there are two questions, like, how would you answer?
I would say the overall kind of advice there is networking. So it's really, I found really important, especially when I kind of, let's say, fully set up my LinkedIn profile. When I was working as a business analyst, I would just kind of, any thought that came into my head, or anything that I thought would be good to share, I started sharing within my network. And then I got different kind of connection requests from different people. And then when I became the president of the IIBA Ireland chapter, I had additional people reach out. But I was able to meet with those different people, learn from their experiences, learn from their challenges, understand how they work, what their kind of approach was. And all of that would then feed into, okay, how do we use that kind of challenges or opportunities within the Ireland chapter? Because we want to be able to help our community as best as possible. But we need to be able to structure that in a way, and we need to make sure that what we're planning is actually aligning with what people expect. So networking is a big thing that we try to do. We're kicking off a lean coffee session next Tuesday, which we're hoping a lot of people will join. And it doesn't have to be about anything business analysis related. It's just a networking opportunity to meet different people.
That's grand. That's good. That's good.
So it's a networking opportunity there to meet different people, learn from different people's experiences. And then we're also looking at, say, some sort of like BA Connect initiative where we've had a few business analysts or even people reach out that want to get into business analysis, but they don't know where to start. So we want to work with them to understand, okay, what are their current experiences? How can they leverage their skills from past experiences into a BA role? And a lot of time they've like worked with different people. They've worked to understand problems. They've done some sort of root cause analysis. They've collaborated. They're very good at active listening. They're good at presentation. That's another kind of, I wouldn't say it's a key skill, but if you can present to different stakeholders, what the requirements are, and it's in an easy kind of readable format, like say when you're creating a process flow diagram as a technique, if you can give a visualization of an easy to follow process flow, like start to end, input, outputs, and even different things, like some people might understand what an output is. So by going that step further and saying, oh, an output could be a document or it could be whatever it is, and explaining it that way, then that all feeds into how you can be a business analyst. And I feel some people, especially that I work with, are actually business analyst professionals. They have the mindset, they have the right thinking. They're constantly thinking the bigger picture, not just like, oh, how do we implement that solution or how do we design the database? It's like, no, what does the user need? We need to start with the user goal, because we're building solutions at the end of the day for users to use. We're not building them for systems to use. We're not building them for APIs. We're building them for users to use. So we need to understand what is the user goal to then work backwards and figure out, okay, what's the solution now that we need to meet the user goal? And I think by having those conversations with different people will help you get an understanding of the BA world, the terminology. By joining IIBA Ireland chapter, you don't necessarily need to be an IIBA member, but we have a shared WhatsApp group that you're more than welcome to join, where we just talk about different kind of tips, tricks, techniques, and we talk about initiatives that we're looking to run. So we're always looking for volunteers. If you're looking to help out at any events, that's also another way to meet different BAs that are actually working as BAs, to understand, to ask questions to them. Reach out to me on LinkedIn anytime. I would say any question you have without anything, because some people don't even know what business analysis is. And I think if we were able to explain that to them and make them understand that it's not just one role, it's not based off a role or a title, it's more based off like a process or a mindset. So it's a way of thinking, it's a way of doing things. And I think that's what, if people can get that understanding, it will help them to know how they can get into a BA position or that kind of business analysis role or kind of area. Yeah, that's what I would say.
Yeah, that's good. Because I know I used to tell a lot of people that there's what they call transferable skills. You know, that no matter what you're doing before, even though you're a salesman, if you're like an account manager, there's what they
100%.
call transferable skills that you can transfer, you know, from there to become a BA. Very, very important. All what you just need to know is learning how to now be a BA, you know, using those skills you acquired over time, then you know, be a person. So to end the whole conversation, do you have any mail or any email address, or you know how people can reach you? You know, if people want to reach you, if people want to become part of IIBA member, what is the best medium for them to reach out?
Yeah, so I'd say you can private message me or on LinkedIn, or you can private the message to IIBA Ireland chapter page. Alternatively, we do have a website, iibaireland.org. I'll figure out that, or I'll give the exact link so that you can send it out. But we do have a section on there where we list our board members, and it gives our board members per area. So like events, corporate membership and sponsorship, professional development, and then myself as president and treasury. Patrick is our treasurer. But we have the specific IIBA email address if you want to contact us there. We also have a contact us kind of form on our website where you can just fill in your details, any kind of questions, or if you're saying, oh, I'm looking to study for an entry-level certificate, or I'm looking to get into business analysis, how do I approach that? It normally comes to my email address, so I'll be able to reply. And then if you're within our shared WhatsApp group, I can share that with yourself, Banks, the link to join, if anyone is interested. But there's multiple ways
to reach out. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Can you hear me now? Okay. Thanks. Okay. Thank you very much for joining. Thank you for giving me, for the opportunity, like to have a chat with you, on being a BA and your experience over the years. I know this is going to be very impactful for people that are going to listen to this, that's going to watch this. I know this is going to be of an opportunity for them to know that it's possible to, be a BA and also, have other things outside as a BA and also be like a lead, because it's all about leading. As a BA, you have the opportunity to lead projects, you have the opportunity to mentor people, and you also have the opportunity to at least to guide, various people as well too. And thank you very much. I really appreciate, you saying yes to my, podcast, and thank you very much, as I said. And everybody like that want to get in touch with, Dean, just go to LinkedIn, reach out to him. His name is Dean James, or probably, reach out to him via email address as well too. I'm going to put that on the link as well too on the video. And thank you once again. And, go subscribe to my channel and also listen to this wonderful podcast. I appreciate it.
Yeah,
Bye.
thanks so much. Thanks so much, Banks, for giving me the opportunity. It's really nice to share experiences and different perspectives from just from my own kind of personal experience. I would say as well that never feel kind of overwhelmed while working in any project in any industry, because like I said, you're not expected to be an expert in that domain. You're expected to be able to feel comfortable to reach out to the right people to get the right information to then define what's needed. I'd say that's kind of what we're trying to do at a high level. And to do all of that, you need to be able to collaborate with different people to ask the right questions to the right people. To do that, you need to know who those right people are. And there's different techniques that you can use to do that. A lot of the time, there is some sort of kind of, let's say, document that you can follow. But if there isn't, you need to be able to adapt your approach constantly to make sure that, okay, I don't have this necessary information. What do I do? How do I start? I'm going to start with my manager, or I'm going to start whoever kind of assigned me to the project. And then I can figure out, okay, who's impacted by this? Or if I don't understand the problem, how do we go about understanding the problem? Like, actually make sure that you understand what the problem is first, because if you don't understand that, you're going to go kind of in waves, and you're not going to get to the right direction or the right kind of goal that you're looking to achieve. So yeah.
Yeah, thank you very much once again. And thank you for coming on board. I appreciate your section. I believe I've also learned a lot, and also, and I'm sure that a lot of people that's going to listen to this, that's going to watch this, going to be impactful. Thank you once again. Thank you. Have a nice day. Bye.
Yeah, thanks so much, Banks. Enjoy your weekends.